Good morning and welcome to day 17 of Bible in a Year. We're going through the Bible in 365 days, and we are going through the greatest love story ever told, and that is the Holy Bible. We are right now in the period of the patriarchs. We're following the Adventure Timeline by Jeff Cavins, the New International Version, and my name is Pastor Jay Lutz. Today we're going to be reading Genesis 33 to 34, Job 23 to 24, and Proverbs 3, 13 to 18. So in Genesis 33 to 34, Jacob meets Esau. Chapter 34 is the atrocity of Leah's daughter Dinah and her defilement by Shechem, and the consequences of his behavior by her brothers. And then we read Job 23-24, where Job replies to Eliphaz, Temanite. And lastly, we'll be reading Proverbs 3, 13 to 18, where we see wisdom is personified as a woman, and Solomon encourages his son to pursue her deeply. Anyways, let us start. Genesis 33. Jacob looked up, and there was Esau coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two maidservants. He put the maidservants and their children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph in the rear. He himself went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Then Esau looked up and saw the women and children. "Who are these with you?" he asked. Jacob answered, "They are the children God has graciously given your servant." Then the maidservant and their children approached and bowed down. Next Leah and her children came and bowed down. Last of all came Joseph and Rachel, and they too bowed down. Esau asked, "What do you mean by all these droves I met?" "To find favor in your eyes, my lord," he said. But Esau said, "I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have yourself." "No, please," said Jacob. "If I found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God. Now that you have received me favorably, please accept the present that has brought to you. For God has been gracious to me, and I have all I need." And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted it. Then Esau said, "Let us be on our way. I'll accompany you." But Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are tender, and that I must care for the ewes and the cows that are nursing their young. If they are driven hard just one day, all the animals will die. So let my Lord go on ahead of his servant, while I move along slowly at the pace of the droves before me, and that of the children, until I come to my Lord in Seir." Esau said, "Let me leave some of my men with you." "But why do that?" Jacob asked. "Just let me find favor in the eyes of my Lord." So that day Esau started on his way, back to Seir. Jacob, however, went to Succoth, where he built a place for himself and made shelter for his livestock. That is why the place is called Succoth. After Jacob came from Padan Aram, he arrived safely in the city of Shechem in Canaan, and camped within sight of the city. For 100 pieces of silver he bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, the plot of ground where he pitched his tent. There he set up an altar and called it El Elohe Israel. Chapter 34. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, had borne to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. When Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, the ruler of the area, saw her, he took her and violated her. His heart was drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke tenderly to her. And Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Get me this girl as my wife." And Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled. His sons were in the field with his livestock, so he kept quiet about it until they came home. Then Shechem's father Hamor went out to talk with Jacob. Now Jacob's sons had come in from the field, and soon they had heard what had happened. They were filled with grief and fury, because Shechem had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. But Hamor said to them, "My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife. Intermarry with us. Give us your daughter and take our daughters for yourselves. You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it." Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, "Let me find favor in your eyes, and I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for the bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you like, and I'll pay whatever you ask me. Only give me the girl as my wife." Because their sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's son replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to them, "We can't do such a thing. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised. That would be a disgrace to us. We will give our consent to you, and on one condition only, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughters and take your daughters for ourselves. We'll settle among you and become one people with you. But if you do not agree to be circumcised, we'll take our sisters and go." Their proposals seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem. The young man, who was the most honored of all his father's household, lost no time in doing what they said, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of the city to speak to their fellow townsmen. "These men are friendly toward us," they said. "Let them live in the land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters and they can marry ours. But the men will consent to live with us as one people, only on the condition that our males be circumcised, as they themselves are. Won't their livestock, their property, and all their other animals become ours? So let us give our consent to them, and they will settle among us." All the men who went out to the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, 2 of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. The sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sisters had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city, and out in the fields. They carried off all the wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the houses. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me by making me a stench to the Canaanites and Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed." But they replied, "Should he have treated our sister like a prostitute?" Our second reading comes from Job, chapter 23 to 24. Chapter 23. Then Job replied, "Even today my complaint is bitter. His hand is heavy in spite of my groaning. If only I knew where to find him. If only I could go to his dwelling. I would state my case before him and fill my mouth with arguments. I would find out what he would answer me and consider what he would say. Would he oppose me with great power? No, he would not press charges against me. There an upright man could present his case before him, and I would be delivered forever from my judge. But if I go to the east, he is not there. If I go to the west, I do not find him. When he is at work in the north, I do not see him. When he turns to the south, I catch no glimpse of him. But he knows the ways that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. My feet have closely followed his steps. I have kept to his way without turning aside. I have not departed from the commands of his lip. I have treasured the words of his mouth more than my daily bread. But he stands alone, and who can oppose him? He does whatever he pleases. He carries out his decrees against me, and many such plans he still has in store. That is why I am terrified before him. When I think of all this, I fear him. God has made my heart faint. The Almighty has terrified me. Yet I am not silenced by the darkness, by the thick darkness that covers my face. Chapter 24. Why does the Almighty not settle times for judgment? Why must those who know him look in vain for such days? Men move boundary stones. They pasture flocks they have stolen. They drive away the orphan's donkey and take the widow's ox in pledge. They thrust the needy from the path and force all the poor of the land into hiding. Like wild donkeys in the desert, the poor go about their labor of foraging food. The wasteland provides food for their children. They gather fodder in the fields and glean in the vineyards of the wicked. Lacking clothes, they spend the night naked. They have nothing to cover themselves in the cold. They are drenched by the mountains' rains and hug the rocks for lack of shelter. The fatherless child is snatched from the breast. The infant, the poor, is seized for a debt. Lacking clothes, they go about naked. They carry the sheaves, but still go hungry. They crush olives among the terraces. They tread the winepress, yet suffer thirst. The groans of the dying rise from the city, and the souls of the wounded cry out for help. But God charges no one with wrongdoing. There are those who rebel against the light, who do not know its ways or stay in its path. When daylight is gone, the murderers rise up and kills the poor and needy. In the night he steals forth like a thief. The eye of the adulterer watches for dusk. He thinks no eye will see me, and he keeps his face concealed. In the dark men break into houses, but by day they shut themselves in. They want nothing to do with the light. For all of them, deep darkness is their morning. They make friends with the terrors of darkness, yet they are foam on the surface of the water. Their portion of land is cursed, so that no one goes to the vineyards. As heat and drought snatch away the melted snow, so the grave snatches away those who have sinned. The womb forgets them, the worm feasts on them. Evil men are no longer remembered, but are broken like a tree. They prey on the barren and childrenless women, and to the widow show no kindness. But God drags away the mighty by his power. Though they become established, they have no assurance of life. He may let them rest in a feeling of security, but his eyes are on their ways. For a little while they are exalted, and then they are gone. They are brought low and gathered up like all others. They are cut off like heads of grain. If this is not so, who can prove me false and reduce my words to nothing? Our final reading is from Proverbs chapter 3, 13 to 18. Blessed is the man who finds wisdom, the man who gains understanding, for she is more profitable than silver, and yields better returns than gold. She is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. Long life is in her right hand, and in her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are pleasant ways, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to those who embrace her. Those who lay hold of her will be blessed. This is why we need to cling to understanding, but more so to wisdom, because wisdom is understanding put into practice. And this is what is more precious than both rubies and gold. We also hear in Job chapter 23, I like how he says, I have treasured the words of his mouth more than my daily bread. This is really what we ask in the Lord's Prayer, that he gives us the daily bread, not just his food, but his spiritual sustenance, his word, that his word might fill us and might provide us with that wisdom that Solomon talks to his son about. And lastly, we hear about Jacob meeting Esau, and the travesty of Dinah. That's such an awkward situation. I mean, it's not their fault that they have experienced this grave injustice done to Dinah. Yet, is it good to deceive and kill and slaughter people as a result? All the men of the land. It's a bit extreme. I think Jacob is right when he says, you have brought trouble on me by making the stench to the Canaanites and the Perizzites. We're only a few number, and if they get together and attack us, we're done. So Jacob shows his insight in this area. Even though, many people want to act in vengeance like the brothers, it makes for poor relations for neighbors. And so we should avoid such things. But let's go back to the Jacob and Esau. And this is honestly, this is one of the most beautiful stories. This is the story of reconciliation. We talk about forgiveness, but this goes to an extent far more, in that this isn't just forgiveness. This is the two coming together, and it says they cried together, and they bowed down. Joseph bows down to him 7 times, and it shows his humility before his brother, and his brother and him. What kind of good problem is it when you're fighting over who can give each other more things, and you're having a hard time accepting the good from the other person? This is what the beautiful thing that happens here. And eventually they both accept each other's gifts. Esau accepts the gifts of the all the gifts that Jacob gives him, whether it be goats or camels, and then Jacob accepts Esau's favor of leaving men with him to help care for his animals. So this is just an example of such true love, and I hope that you also like this relationship we see between Jacob and Esau, that you can come together with your family members or people that you are in trouble with, and that you might be able to rest upon the understanding of God, and that you might come to a similar instance where you find reconciliation with those you love. May that be my prayer for you today. I ask for your prayers as we go through this, and know that I am praying for you. Have a blessed day.